Hi there, welcome. I'm Ben. I'm the creator of Protocraft. Welcome to the start of a video series where I showcase all the cool things you can do with Protocraft. So, very before we even begin, the first thing you're going to see after you download Protocraft and open it for the first time is going to be the settings panel. Actually, you'll be welcomed with information about Protocraft. It will look similar to this about, but it's a special message that pops up really the first time that you use it if you haven't set up an API key. And you'll also be presented with the activation code, so you can put that in if you have one yet. If you don't, that's fine. You can use Protocraft without one to evaluate and see whether you like it and whether you want to keep it. Uh, okay, so very start, you'll be able to set your API keys. You don't have to bring an API key if you have a local model running on a desktop somewhere, or if you even have your own cloud service provider that's running a model that you want to use, you can absolutely use that. There is no barrier, no requirements there. But for the convenience, you can set up an OpenAI API key, Anthropic, Google Gemini, OpenRouter, and Venice. So all of these are available to you now, and there will be more being added as well. And there are other integration API keys which help for the tools, help for other parts of Protocraft if you wanted to use them. So there's a tool for Google Search. If you want to enable that, you put the information in here. Hugging Face, if you want to use that for the image generation models. And then Etherscan, if you want to use the Web3 blockchain tools. A couple of them require that information. And then for the local and the custom APIs, if you want to set up a local image generation server, I use Automatic 1111, so I use that for Stable Diffusion. You can set that up. I also have Olama running, so you can set that up as well. And if you have a different API provider that you want to use that works out of the box with the OpenAI uh, Node.js package, then you can give it a try and actually use it here. So before Google was added into Protocraft officially, I was able to test and use it by connecting to the API here. And then your individual models, you provide all of that here. You don't have to worry about providing the automatic 1111 models, like that will get picked in automatically. But for Olama, just pick out the models you want to use, providing information in there, or if you are, using a third-party API provider, you provide that information here as well. And then we also have within Protocraft, you can provide information to the AI of the directory structure, all the information about it. That's part of the magic of Protocraft. It's giving the AI that kind of insight, that context. But you don't want to give it access to all your files because a lot of it's going to be trash or just regular metadata junk you don't want to put in there. And some of it's going to be sensitive information that you don't want to show, like key files and whatnot. So by default, you will have a preset always ignore files. If you want to change that, you can absolutely do that. That is completely up to you. But this is kind of the standard set of information that's pretty useless for an LLM to use. And then we have data management. If you want to export all of your data, you can do that. You can import data from another Protocraft installation. The only thing that will not come with it are your API keys and a few of the settings. The API keys are stored uh, in a configuration file that is encrypted for the majority of people using Protocraft. The only time it's not encrypted is in a couple of Windows installations don't have like a key service really available to encrypt the file. But for the vast majority of people using this, your keys are completely encrypted and cannot be exposed except through the operating system that you're running on. And if you want to reset everything, clear that, you can clear just your data, or you can also clear your keys as well. And then lastly, we have light mode and dark mode, so whichever you prefer. All right, and then the very beginning of using Protocraft is the chat. Uh, Very standard chat interface, but with a couple bells and whistles because this is something that runs locally on your desktop, has the ability to pick whatever model you want. There's going to be some extra stuff in here. Also, it is meant to be very customizable. So depending on what information you want presented, you can play around with it. It gives you a lot of control as to just how many tokens you want to use, what tools you want to make available, that kind of thing. So down here we have the model that's currently being selected. We have filters and we have settings. So in the filters, you can pick to only show the models in that listing that have tools available to it. And tools means it can read files, it can write files. Like this is built in to the LLM that you're connected to. Same for image vision. So if you want to be able to show an image and then get a description of it or anything to that effect, you could make sure that you only use models that support that. So we'll go ahead, we'll unselect that because I want to show everything. Uh, you also have these options. Most people will not really tweak them. I don't really tweak them, but if you want to, they're available to you. And some of the different options are different depending on the model. Now, there's not very many differences, but Anthropic has cache control. It is on by default, so you don't have to worry about that. That's built into Protocraft. And then for all the models that are available, every key that you've provided, it will show those models. If you don't have an Anthropic key, for example, you will not see the Anthropic models. You'll see all your local and custom in here as well. Google AI, OpenAI, everything is updated. The Anthropic, the Google, and the OpenAI are updated from our server. So this is the only time the Protocraft makes a call to our server besides verifying your activation key is to get the latest models from them because those providers do not uh, have an API that is exposed to kind of give that information. But with OpenRouter and with Venice, they do tell you what models are available to you. So every time you load the application, it will pull the latest information from OpenRouter, same from Venice. So you'll see it's a pretty long list. And then we have the same for Venice AI. And then for the other configurations you would want, if you have common prompts that you used or things that are effectively system prompts, you can actually just go ahead and make your own template. And I'll show that a little bit later. The initialization is what basic, very common information do you want to provide every time you start a new chat or whenever you turn it on. And that's effectively the sharing the date and the time. Very common thing to share if you are trying to get like real-time information. And then the directory listing, extremely important if you're using tools. And then of course for the tools, we have a lot of the very common tools and we have more coming right now. Files, the ability to read, to create them, same for folders, and to edit them. And that is extremely effective, extremely powerful. It is the meat of what makes Protocraft special. It also has the ability to search the internet, to browse websites. You can give it that ability. And then if you are interested in Web3 and blockchain tools, we have some of that here as well, which I'll go over later. So we'll go ahead and we'll start with O3 Mini and we'll ask it what is the weather going to be like this weekend in New York City. Doesn't currently have access to weather data. That is untrue. Let's ask a different model and see if we can get a different answer. Let's try 3.5 Sonnet. We'll just copy that. Let's try it again. And now Sonnet, again, different models are going to act differently to what information is provided to it. So in the case of O3, it didn't think, maybe I should check the internet, but Sonnet did. So here we actually have some information about this weekend. It is February 5th as I'm making this video. So February 8th gives us the high and low. Same for Sunday and a nice breakdown of the weather. And that's the kind of the meat and potatoes of Protocraft. The fun, the magic comes from adding a whole lot of other things on top of it. that Protocraft provides you with. So we have the ability to look at all your files. You can go ahead and add folders and whatnot. Um, Basically, here's an example of adding a root folder. So now we have two different root folders that it has the ability to view. We have your chat history. We have workspaces, so you can go ahead and create new ones very easily. And that will set you up with each workspace has its own chat history, its own set of files and folders that it works with, its own current selected LLM, the initialization and tool selection, all of that is custom to the workplace or the workspace. So if you have a work-oriented workspace where you're working on, code or parsing documents, that kind of thing, you can keep that and that configuration to that workspace, and that if you have one for just making images and saving them, then you'll have your own configuration for that as well. So let's see, what would be the next best thing I could do? We're going to have a fun one. So I'm going to bring up the workspace. I've actually done this in an earlier test, so we're going to go ahead and pull. I'm going to copy this using the nifty copy to clipboard function. I'm going to close down the workspace over here. I'm going to start a new chat entirely. There's a difference between new chats and threads. Chats have an individual chat in here, and threads are continue the chat. It helps you stay within the context of what you already have. All right. So one of the best things about Protocraft is the ability to create, modify, view files, work with them directly in your desktop. So we're going to go and make Tetris from scratch. We're going to use Claude 3.5 Sonnet to do it. So you can see right here, it's doing its setup. It made a little plan. It made the Tetris directory. It made CSS and JavaScript directories underneath that. Now it's going ahead and editing that and adding all the files that it thinks that it needs to have. And this may take a little bit of time, but usually not as long as you would think. And you can actually see with every prompt response how much it costs and what the current token count is. You can actually see all of the details of what's happening in real time. Alright, so now we have our project. Let's go ahead and take a look. Alright, so it looks like we've got something functional to start. Go ahead and they're playing. Alright, so I can drop it, I can let the pieces collapse, but there's a few things that I would like to add. Let's test that. Okay, first one down. Uh, Add the function to hard drop a piece on spacebar, and then show the shadow of where the piece will drop. Yep, that's good. And now I get to play Tetris while it does some work for me. very fun to watch this happen in real time. Alright, so let's see. Now we're going to review the changes made. We've got a shadow offset, added the functions, the hard drop, and update the shadow. And then that is the only change we have to review. So let's go ahead and load this again. And there we go. We've got a shadow and we've got our hard drop. So now it's starting to feel like the Tetris that I've been addicted to for far too long.